Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Alright, so how many consecutive examples do you need until you could declare something a trend? That's the question I'm asking these days. You know, how many more examples of left-wing violence are necessary to start finally having the conversation that something is happening and that obviously something needs to be done, that this issue needs to be addressed? How many more examples? You know, the left, they'll have one example, it's not even a real example, the Juicy Smollett thing, for instance. That'll happen, and then they'll run with it and create this wide-spanning narrative or activist movement that sweeps the globe and demands for change and reform. You know, you'll see all that cultural movement based on a hoax. Meanwhile, on the other side, how many times can we notice the exact same thing happening over and over again until we can declare it a trend and, like I keep saying, finally talk about it? Of course, we're continuing on here, highlighting left-wing extremism, the slow descent into madness that we've seen on the left side. Here we go again, another violent leftist threatening political violence has been arrested by the FBI. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so it's basically exactly like I said, another violent deranged leftist arrested for supposedly plotting a violent act targeting certain Supreme Court justices. Take a look.
Authorities have picked up an Alaska man. The Department of Justice says the man threatened to injure and kill 6 U.S. Supreme Court justices and some of their family members. He didn't like the decisions they were making. So this is what he wanted to do, allegedly. A DOJ source is telling Fox it's likely those threats were directed toward the 6 conservative members of the court. And here's what we know. The suspect is 76 years old and sent more than 465 messages through a public website maintained by the court. In focus now, Carrie Urban on this, breaking news, Fox News legal editor. So we're getting some more details about this, Carrie. I first of all want to hear from you on this case.
Well, we don't know yet if it is the 6 conservative justices, but Harris, as you pointed out, we do have a source telling us that we can read between the lines, and it's probably safe to assume that it is.
You know, like I keep saying in these videos, we've made so many at this point, there seems to be a desensitization element here, where, you know, in the past, a story like this would be shocking, holy freaking crap. It's now just become normal. And that right there is crazy, because I kept saying in the intro, you know, how many times does something have to happen for us to start having a conversation, for it to be a trend? Well, here we are. Is this not enough? Attempted assassinations of the former president of the United States, attempted violent acts targeted Republican candidates, Republican Supreme Court justices. I mean, it goes on and on and on. We've seen it so many times that at this point it's like, well, it happened again. Another mysterious package mailed to President Trump's home with mysterious powder. Another person arrested for threatening online violence. Another person arrested or having their plot thwarted to commit a violent act targeting Supreme Court justices. How many times have we seen this? We've seen it a countless amount of times. None of it is surprising anymore, and obviously we know exactly what's going on here. The DOJ's indictment doesn't specifically name the justices that were threatened, but they do state that it was 6 justices in particular that were the target of this online harassment and threatening campaign. Well, let's extrapolate that a little bit. 6 justices. The Supreme Court has a 6-3 conservative majority. I wonder what the context is here. Obviously, the DOJ is doing their best to keep it all under the rug. They're trying so hard to maintain their precious narrative that the greatest threat to the homeland is MAGA extremism and white nationalist violence. But there's so much focus on this supposed threat of white nationalism and MAGA extremism, but no actual concrete examples. Meanwhile, here we go.
Another one.
Frickin' another one. I mean, it's DJ Khaled in the frickin' house, folks. Another violent leftist arrested. This individual goes by the name of Panos Anastasiou. Unfortunate for all the Greeks out there. I'm one of them. Another crazy Greek leftist has been arrested, but anyways, we got the guy's name. It's a very unique Greek-sounding name in the state of Alaska. Let me tell you, there's only one Panos Anastasiou in probably all of Alaska, and of course, very quickly searching his name in the FEC logs, allegedly this individual is a regular contributor to Act Blue. Play the only appropriate meme here. I mean, wow, who would have seen this one coming? I mean, it's just crazy. This is the second individual in the span of roughly a week who's linked to the 2 same things. The first being plotting to commit a heinous, violent act, a horrible act of political violence, and the second thing, an Act Blue donator. I wonder if those 2 things go together. Obviously they do. And this comes a couple years after another assassination attempt targeting Justice Brett Kavanaugh was attempted, or rather was thwarted before the attempt.
A California man has been
charged with the attempted murder of U.S. Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. He was arrested early Wednesday morning near Kavanaugh's Maryland home, the site of recent protests by abortion rights advocates. The individual, identified by police as 26-year-old Nicholas Roski, was armed with a handgun and planned to kill the conservative justice, according to authorities. He was reportedly voicing distress about the expected reversal of a landmark decision legalizing abortion nationwide.
Yet it's a complete media blackout. On all the mainstream sources that aren't Newsmax, Fox News, or others, which is frankly the majority of them, not even a single word on this issue. They don't even have this conversation. But they went on and on and on for years, claiming that Donald Trump was inciting violence. Donald Trump's rhetoric caused an insurrection. Some people go as far to state that he led a violent insurrection. In fact, the current Democratic presidential nominee uttered that exact lie on the stage the other night.
I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital.
There's this whole idea that Donald Trump is inciting violence. Meanwhile, this is what's happening out in the open. You know, you have these instances that have nothing to do with Donald Trump, but somehow they'll link it to Trump and they'll blame him directly, like I always say. He tells people to go home, protest peaceably, do not go into the Capitol, and they claim that he said, engage in a violent insurrection, overthrow the Capitol building. You know, they say that he says the opposite of what he actually said. They misrepresent the reality. Meanwhile, Chuck Schumer not too long ago said this.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
And now we're seeing an increase in violence, or rather attempted violent acts, and even threats targeting conservative Supreme Court justices. Seems pretty direct to me. You would think if the leftist media establishment at large was intellectually honest enough, was actually doing their job from a neutral perspective, a neutral standpoint, that they would highlight this, right? I mean, they seem so keen to condemn violent rhetoric. But no, of course not. Not when their side does it. When their side does it, it doesn't exist. It doesn't even enter the realm of conversation. I'm just going to say what I always say. We got another violent left-wing actor attempting to commit a violent act after years and years of Democrats claiming democracy is at stake. We're facing a genocide. The Supreme Court must be stacked. Donald Trump and his illegitimate takeover of the Supreme Court. I mean, yada, yada, yada. You've heard the rhetoric. We got to stop them at any cost. Well, where do you think that kind of rhetoric leads? I don't know. You tell me. How about that? I've presented the story here, the context here, at least on a basic level. Make your own opinion. Who's really stirring up violence? Who's really motivating extreme acts? Who's pushing the rhetoric that's motivating these crazy lone wolf actors? Who's doing it? I don't know. It seems pretty obvious to me. What do you think? Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.